Whether you like him or not, there's one thing about CM Punk that I think everybody appreciates, and it's the fact that he gets people talking, for better or for worse. If there's one thing that CM Punk does better than anybody in the pro wrestling realm, is that he gets people talking based off of very little information. And that's exactly what happened on Friday night while CM Punk made his first public appearance after his termination from All Elite Wrestling. CM Punk says he has a lot of free time for the next 2 months in his first public appearance since Tony Khan let him go from AEW. There's been a lot of speculation about CM Punk and the future of Phil Brooks returning to WWE, as Punk was released by AEW earlier this month after a physical altercation with Jack Perry at AEW All in London. Now, as previously reported, as you guys know, Punk was open to leaving AEW during his initial run and making a return to WWE last December with the idea that he would return at the Royal Rumble, get eliminated, and start a program going into WrestleMania with whomever eliminated him from the Royal Rumble, and Kevin Owens was the name cited in that report. Now, that was never going to happen. I know everybody made a big deal about CM Punk showing up at Monday Night Raw when they were at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago. That was earlier in the year, December, January-ish, around that time frame. He wanted to meet with some of his old friends. He met with Triple H for 90 seconds. He made amends with The Miz. And everybody was talking about this situation. Oh, Punk's going to go back to WWE. Punk wants to go back to WWE. Then we hear this report about Punk wanting to be in the Royal Rumble. First of all, it was never going to happen with Punk being in the Royal Rumble because Punk at that time was only 4 months removed from his injury that he suffered at All Out with Jon Moxley. So he was never going to appear in the Royal Rumble or physically be ready for anything Royal Rumble / WrestleMania related. So I don't know why that made the news. So that obviously came from CM Punk's camp. I found it funny how he wanted to go right after Kevin Owens, who is a very good friend of both Matt and Nick Jackson. And then going back to WWE, I know everybody has this pipe dream of CM Punk ending up back in the WWE. On one hand, content creators like myself would love it. I would love to see it because there's a small part of me that loves chaos in the pro wrestling realm. But on the other hand, I think we all kind of still appreciate Phil Brooks in some way, shape, or form, and I don't want to see him go back on his laurels and go back to WWE and show himself to be a hypocrite, because that's going to be the talking point if he does end up back with the WWE. Nick Khan recently mentioned CM Punk in an interview with Mark Ramaldi of ESPN. ESPN asked Nick Khan about CM Punk, and Nick Khan actually did answer the question. He danced around the question, but he did address the speculation of CM Punk. He says, listen, we only have respect for Phil Brooks. We appreciate his run here, and we appreciate what he did and what he tried to do with the UFC. Not many people can actually get in there and do what he did. So when we have respect for Phil, we wish him nothing but the best. A lot of people thought that Nick Khan buried Phil Brooks in this interview. He did no such thing, and he left it very much open to CM Punk showing up in the WWE. Now, it will be a concentrated effort to want to bring him back. But at the end of the day, it's going to end up being Ari Emanuel's decision and Endeavor's decision, as they now own 51% of the WWE. I'm sure Vince will have some say. I'm sure Nick Khan will have some say. I'm sure Triple H, in some way, shape, or form, will have some say. But if you guys watched SmackDown on Friday night, I found it very weird that all of a sudden, Rock shows up on Pat McAfee's podcast, talks college football, and then reveals to everybody that the match with Roman Reigns was absolutely locked in for WrestleMania 39. It was locked in. If it was locked in, why didn't it happen? I'll tell you why it didn't happen. Because The Rock wanted to wait for the deal to go through with Endeavor. That's why. So all of this shit, all of this mega just star-studded nonsense with WWE happening right now with the Endeavor merger. I mean, CM Punk is absolutely going to be a part of that. I feel it in my bones that CM Punk is going to be a part of this first year with WWE merging with UFC as Endeavor buys WWE. I think they're going to be saving a lot of the best shit that you've been waiting on for this year because they wanted the sale of the company to be finalized. Just found it very weird that all of a sudden Rock makes those comments and then as soon as he does, he shows up on Friday Night SmackDown. First time in how many years did The Rock show up on WWE television? Now a match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia is more of a possibility than ever before. And I do think that same thing is going to kind of bleed into CM Punk coming back to the WWE. Now, as far as his comments, CM Punk did make comments while he was doing commentary for Friday's Cage Fury Fighting Championships. This marked the first public appearance since being fired by Tony Khan and AEW. During the broadcast, there was a reference to Punk's AEW contract being terminated with cause by Punk's broadcast partner, John Morgan, and Punk also seemingly teased the WWE return by noting he has free time on his hands for the next 2 months, which could indicate a potential time period for a non-compete, or it could just be CM Punk playing the fans and getting people talking about Phil Brooks after life after AEW. This obviously lines up with Survivor Series 2 months. Survivor Series being in Chicago in late November. It's still unclear whether Punk has a non-compete or whether WWE is even interested in bringing back CM Punk, who also used Cody Rhodes' "What do you want to talk about?" line during the same Cage Fury Fighting Championship broadcast last night. CM Punk certainly knows how to get people talking, man. And, you know, I know the big elephant in the room is if CM Punk goes back to WWE, how many people will be labeling him hypocrites? I honestly think the hypocritical standpoint is going to come from the AEW fan base that doesn't want to see WWE have their moment in the sun at all. Vice versa. I think when someone in WWE goes to AEW, the WWE fans love it or hate it, and the AEW fans relish in it. The same thing happened with Cody Rhodes. When Cody Rhodes went to WWE, the AEW fans couldn't stand it. Some of those people aren't Cody Rhodes fans anymore. I know them personally. Some of them anyway. Some of them can't stand Cody Rhodes anymore for what he did and how he left AEW. Same thing is said about AEW when someone joins WWE. It will happen to Jade Cargill. It will happen to Ricky Starks. It will happen to MJF or whoever ends up going to WWE. I do think the AEW fan base will cry hypocritical Phil Brooks when that moment comes. And the WWE fans, they will be very forgiving because that man landed with their promotion and he left the terrible Tony Khan-led AEW. I don't think that's going to really be a talking point with the WWE fans as they'll cry victory on social media and claim that AEW is Bush League and not anywhere a pro wrestler wants to work because they always end up coming back home. But if there's one thing that we know about Phil Brooks is that he gets people talking. He continues to get people talking by something so minuscule as making a one-liner. Oh, I'm free for the next 2 months at least. Obviously, he knew what he was doing. Obviously, he knows that Chicago will be home to Survivor Series. And then he throws in the Cody Rhodes line. What do you want to talk about, John? I mean, he knows what he's doing. And the fact that I made this video, clearly he knows what he's doing because I, amongst many other people in the community, made a video off of this one line that he said during MMA commentary last night. And it's a talking point. It's going to get people talking. It's going to get people interested in what CM Punk is doing. And I'm here to give you guys the news because this is news. And if CM Punk shows up in WWE at Survivor Series, that's going to be one of the biggest stories possibly of all time. So we will keep an eye on this. We got a long way to go. We got a couple of events in between. And CM Punk is certainly going to keep his name in everybody's mouth for the next 2 months. Speaking of CM Punk, a lot of people, if CM Punk ends up going back to WWE, already have fantasized about CM Punk and Roman Reigns at some point as a mega match for WWE to go out there and do. Well, Roman Reigns needs to be on television. We don't know when Roman Reigns will be back on television. We don't know who Roman Reigns' next title defense will come against. But Roman Reigns' next WWE match seemingly revealed. He hasn't done anything since Jey Uso and SummerSlam 2023. Following that show, there was a segment where Jay laid out Jimmy, Solo, and Reigns during an episode of SmackDown, leading to Reigns disappearing off of television. Now, at that point, after Reigns was taken off of television, Jay got drafted to Monday Night Raw via a trade where Cody used his political pull to get Jey Uso over to Monday Night Raw after Jay quit WWE and SmackDown and the Bloodline. Jimmy Uso stays on SmackDown pretending that he's in the Bloodline, and Paul Heyman said last night that Jimmy is not in the Bloodline to Solo Sikoa. So they did this because they want to separate Jimmy and Jey Uso. They want to separate the brothers as they plan a match between the two at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Now, Reigns is slated to make his return to WWE television, and in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that the next Reigns match will indeed be on November 4th in Saudi Arabia. He will be back on television leading up to that match to promote it. Reigns' exact return is unclear, says Dave Meltzer. Now, Roman Reigns is not currently advertised for the Royal Rumble on January 27th from Tampa. That will be taking place at Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay. However, Reigns could always be added to the show at a later date. Now, Roman Reigns will be at the Royal Rumble. That is the start of WrestleMania season, so I don't see Roman Reigns missing any TV time during that huge stretch for WWE, especially in this first year, their first WrestleMania season under the Endeavor umbrella. I do not see Roman Reigns missing any of those major shows at all, so that is a non-factor. He will be at the Royal Rumble. He will be defending the title at the Royal Rumble show. Against who? That remains to be seen. But as far as his match in Saudi Arabia, that is a very long time. Coming out of SummerSlam, showing up on one SmackDown, going away for all of September, all of October, and then most of November. I mean, that's a huge discrepancy in Roman Reigns' title run. So when people claim that they're tired of Roman Reigns, they want to see Roman Reigns lose the championship, the titles are losing value, and there's no respect on the championships, and Roman Reigns' title reign and the amount of days that he's accumulated as champion is nothing more than a fucking asterisk and a farce because WWE got him to this point by keeping him off television for half of the year and only defending the championship 4 times in a single calendar year. People will start asking questions, and people are getting frustrated. When you talk about the greatest reign of all time, Roman Reigns, you know, it's going to be a subject of a lot of wrestling fans. Is it or is it not? When he's off TV and not defending the championship and he misses all these major shows, how could you sit there and claim that it's one of the greatest title reigns of all time? Is it a legitimate title reign with the days accumulated? People are going to cite that his absence from television is going to hinder that from him being the greatest of all time. But November 4th, who does he defend the championship against? Now, if you watch current TV, it looks like AJ Styles may be getting the match at Survivor Series. That's at least where I thought it was going. But after last night on SmackDown, LA Knight made a championship promise. He doesn't care if it's Rey Mysterio and the United States Championship. He doesn't care if it's Gunther, he says. Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. He doesn't care if it's Seth Rollins for the World's Heavyweight Championship. And he put a little emphasis on Roman Reigns, he says, and I certainly don't care if it's Roman Reigns and the Universal Heavyweight Championship. Is WWE lining up LA Knight for Roman Reigns at the Saudi show on November 4th? I think that is a huge miss. I would not book that at all. LA Knight should be climbing the ladder slowly but surely. If you want him to be a world champion, putting him against Roman Reigns is not the way to go at all. If he goes into that match with Roman Reigns and loses, where does he go? What's next? Why do you want to stifle his momentum by putting him in the ring with Roman Reigns and then having him lose? Now, you're going to have an audience, a small pocket of people. Well, if he's in the match with Roman Reigns, it's only going to... It's going to enhance his star power, man. But he's going to lose. We don't need LA Knight to lose in a championship match that he's never slated to win. Why are you putting anybody like that in the ring with Roman Reigns during this run when it's basically Roman Rock, Roman Cody? That's all anybody's talking about. Roman should not be in the ring with someone like LA Knight if he's only going to give LA Knight a loss and stifle his momentum. Nobody should be talking about LA Knight or the likes of LA Knight being a world champion, at least Roman Reigns championships, until Roman loses the championship. Maybe we turn Santos Escobar heel in this Rey Mysterio LWO storyline. Have Santos beat Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. Turn heel, and maybe LA Knight goes after the United States Championship. I don't know. Or I even threw this out there. Maybe LA Knight wins the Royal Rumble, and maybe LA Knight goes after Seth Rollins in the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't fucking know. But putting him in the ring against Roman Reigns, if he loses, what happens next? Where does he go? He's only going to go right back to where he should have been in the first place, and that is not challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship that currently sits around Roman Reigns. I don't know. I don't find that to be very productive at all for WWE Creative. But right now, Reigns, November 4th, who is it going to be against? You guys let me know. I thought it was AJ Styles. LA Knight's making a case for it to be him. I hope it's not. AJ Styles is the safe choice, even though he needs some wins himself. He's the safe choice. Let me know what you guys think down below. And finally, guys, Edge and WWE are still very far apart on money for a new WWE contract. The decision of whether he wants to continue to wrestle or not is the only factor, or not the only factor, I should say, in the contract talks between WWE and Edge. The last several weeks has seen much speculation amongst fans regarding Edge and what he will do next with his pro wrestling career as his deal with WWE expires this month. Now, he said the end of the year. We don't really know. For all we know, his deal is already expired, and he can show up next week at AEW's Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Now, the last match we saw of Edge was Sheamus on SmackDown in Toronto. That was in late August. Edge was briefly removed from WWE's internal roster, but is in the inactive pool, along with wrestlers such as Steve Austin, The Undertaker, and other injured talent at this current time. He's still a member of the SmackDown roster on WWE.com. In a Twitter video addressing all the speculation, Edge previously denied a report noting that WWE declined to meet his request regarding what it would take to keep him under contract, adding more fuel to the speculation that he could be AEW bound. Edge noted a contract extension offer from WWE is in his inbox. Now, while speaking on the Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted that, just like with Drew McIntyre and just like with LA Knight, Edge is also far apart on money with WWE for a new deal. This was brought up when discussing Jade Cargill being far apart on money with AEW, and speculation is that she will arrive in WWE imminently. Meltzer says this about Edge. It's the same thing with Edge and McIntyre. Not that those deals are dead in WWE, but they're not close on money, and that's where it stands. It's not like somebody, whatever these people ask for, it's not like it's a rubber stamp, even though WWE is loaded with money. Tony's running a business. WWE's running a business. They have an idea of a salary scale or a salary cap. WWE can afford anything and anyone, but they're not going to do that now at the sale to Endeavor. They have a mental salary scale of what people in certain positions get, and some of the guys want more or think they deserve something more to others in the company. And that's kind of the situation, the speculation. And it goes, again, on both sides with Edge and McIntyre, Jade Cargill in AEW, jumping ship to WWE, and even LA Knight. There was a report that LA Knight was far apart on money with WWE, as well as they're still in the midst of contract extensions for LA Knight. It's always cash and creative. I've said this time and time and time again, taken from the famous Jim Ross quote on his podcast many years ago. It's only two things that keep a pro wrestler from really doing what they want to do. It's cash and creative. Always. Those two C's. And I do think that with Edge, I do think that he's being swayed into joining AEW. I don't think there's much for Edge to do in WWE. I know a lot of people would love to see Edge remain in WWE. A lot of people see Edge as a WWE lifer. But for you to sit there and think that it's not intriguing to make the jump to AEW, Tony Khan's going to be throwing a lot of money at Adam Copeland simply because he had to fire against everybody's judgment for so long, finally manned up and fired Phil Brooks, CM Punk from AEW. Edge coming on in would be a beautiful replacement for Phil Brooks, a locker room leader that locker room needs. He could be placed on Saturday Night Collision to do what he needs to do with FTR, to do what he needs to do against Christian Cage or with Christian Cage, whatever he wants to do. That would be a star that Tony Khan could ultimately replace with an Edge, and fill that void with CM Punk being gone. Same thing with Jade Cargill jumping ship to WWE. A lot of people think that that is a big loss. I don't deem that as a big loss. She didn't really do much of anything in AEW for it to be a big loss. There's going to be a big gain for WWE because of how WWE markets talent and how they create stars. AEW did not tap into Jade Cargill. She didn't do anything in AEW for it to be a big loss. It's a potential big loss, but the potential was never tapped into. For her to go to WWE, it is a big gain for them because they know exactly what they're going to do with her and had an idea of what they were going to do with her well before she decided to jump ship. Now, we don't even know if she will jump ship. There is still time for them to come to a deal, AEW and Jade Cargill. But again, if Jade Cargill goes to WWE, we potentially have Edge, Adam Copeland coming in, and it's probably, pretty certain that Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, is coming to AEW. So, that's a trade I am willing to go and do. If we're losing Jade Cargill to WWE, we're going to get Edge and Mercedes Moné over on AEW side. I don't think AEW is going to be really worried about what happens with Jade Cargill. Though the potential is there, it's not right now a big loss for AEW. Maybe when WWE takes her to the next level or so, and we see that star shine bright the way that we know it can, then at that point, it'll be a big loss. But right now, AEW losing Jade Cargill is not a big loss whatsoever. But Edge, I do think that he's AEW bound, and I hope that he does ride out the rest of his career the way he wants. Whether he joins AEW or WWE, I'm going to follow him no matter what because we all love Adam Copeland. Guys, thank you very much for all your support. If you enjoyed today's podcast, today's video, make sure you guys go and hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell for all notifications. If you missed any of the content on the channel, everything you need is on the homepage. Go and check it out. If you missed Friday Night SmackDown's post show, we did it on Saturday. Make sure you guys go check that out. That is on the homepage as well. And I will be back with more news this weekend. We got major news on AEW moving to Max and upping their pay-per-views to 12 per year. And I got extra news on Jade Cargill making the jump to WWE. What is being said internally within both the AEW and WWE locker rooms. We got so much news to round out the weekend, so keep it right here on Off the Script. Guys, enjoy your Saturdays. I'll see you live tonight for AEW Collision. Until then, enjoy your Saturdays, and I'll see you right back here tonight for Saturday Night Collision.